Welcome to the Weekly Business Hour, where each week we give you the best in business news that you can use, tips and information on how you can make your business more profitable, and hear from a special business guest who will share their own experiences in running their business. Our guests this week are Ross and Diana Silva, owners of Minuteman Press, North Loop 336. I am your host, Rick Schissler, Silver Fox Advisor, who personally has 40 plus years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor and your host for the Weekly Business Hour. We welcome you to another great show here this morning. We have a great guest in the studio. We also, though, have some great ideas and tips that we put together. I got into the papers last week and did some research, and I want to share some ideas that I picked up that might be helpful to you, if not today, down the road in the operation. And the first one, if you decide to sell your business, when it comes time to sell the business, an idea I came across, there was an article Lisa Ward wrote over the weekend for the Wall Street Journal in the Money Game section. And I thought it was pretty good. It was entitled, Selling Your Business, Stick Around After the Deal. Well, as you may or may not know, if you've tried to sell your business over the last 4 or 5 years, since 2008, 2009, the financial meltdown that occurred, selling a business, a small business particularly, has gotten a lot more difficult. In fact, in most cases, one survey that she quotes, over 90% of the sales, according to a survey run by BizBuySell, a major online exchange, said that seller financing was a critical or important to getting a deal done even today. And I think back in the last year or two or three, it might have even been higher than 90%. So the point is, if you're going to sell your business, you got to think about, do I want to keep part of the business myself? In other words, do I want to loan the buyer part of the purchase price? Because if you don't, you're going to have a much more difficult time selling your business, apparently even today. Now, when times get better and the economy picks up throughout the country and everyone has a more positive attitude, I think this factor itself, as history will show you, it goes away, or at least is greatly reduced. There's less seller financing required. But again, if you want to sell a business today, apparently it's a big deal to be ready to accept part of the risk that the new buyer is taking on by buying the business. So it's important that you, as a seller, do your due diligence. And by that I mean that you really check out the buyer of the business. Usually it's the buyer that's saddled with a lot of due diligence. They come to the table, they buy the business, they do their own financing, they borrow from traditional sources such as banks and whatnot. But today, as a seller, you're doing part of the financing, so you need to do due diligence just like any financial institution or lender would do. So you need to check your buyer out. You need to check out their background, perhaps do a personal background check, who they are. You need to check out how and when they've been in business, what their track record been, where they're coming from, everything. Because what you're trying to do is evaluate whether they can be successful and pay you the part that you're financing. And that's very, very important, obviously, because a lot of times the gravy or your profit in the deal is at 30, 40% or whatever or more that you're being asked to finance. So it's critical that you check that buyer out if you're going to carry part of the note, so to speak. And a lot of people that have sold their businesses, and that was a point made in this article, and as I thought back over my experience in selling my businesses and some of the clients I've worked with in selling a business, there's a lot of different ways to do that. I mean, the due diligence, everybody's got to do. But as you go forward, you close the deal, and then they're out there, they're working, they're making their note payment to you. But how do you keep an eye on things? How do you make sure that the business is moving along other than stopping by, looking around, maybe talking to one of your old employees who still works there? Well, there's some ways you can work into the contract to sell the business. One of the ones I think that is probably more obvious and very helpful is the fact that you ask for financials. In other words, you get a monthly financial statement. At the end of the year, you get a statement, hopefully prepared by a CPA or reviewed by a CPA, that shows where the business is financially. I think that's an easy, so to speak, but critical way until your note is paid you get a copy of the financials on a regular basis. Another way to do it is to take a lien, if possible, on some of the business assets. Sometimes that's possible. At least you would have assets to go back against that you could turn around and sell. I've even seen people go as far as to set up in the contract that if they miss a payment or two, that the buyer misses a payment, they can move back in and take over the business. And there's already a process written into the sales contract that sets that up. So you move back into the business, you work to revive it, to get it back on keel, and I guess you can sell it again. I actually knew someone early in my career that sold a business, the same business, 3 times. It took 3 times for the sale to stick, and I'm not sure they did the real due diligence the first 2 times, but let me assure you, after almost 5 years after they first sold the business and then they're selling for the 3rd time, they did their due diligence because they didn't want to come back again and take back over that business. Another reason, and I thought this was rather unique that came up in selling a business, to take an interest in the business, take a percentage of the financing, is some people are looking still. They built the business up, and you can imagine this. If you work in a business 20, 30 years, they built up a legacy, and they want to make sure that legacy continues. They want that business to continue because it's something they built, even though the ownership is new, different people, and we're talking about circumstances where the business is not purchased by a family member, but they want the business to thrive, particularly if they live in a smaller community and that business has become part of the community. They want it to thrive and grow, so they will retain an interest and they'll even stay involved a little bit. I think it's a big question, in my opinion, whether it's healthy for the former owner to stay involved. I think they're unique situations, they're unique personalities. There's no absolute, but I think if I have a business to sell, and I will, again, base this on my experience and experience of my clients, it's very, very difficult typically for the former owner to stay involved. And many times sellers and buyers, as part of the contract, the buyer wants the seller to stay involved. I think that's a difficult, tricky proposition, but it's there. And again, some sellers want to stay involved. So they find a buyer that appreciates them being involved on at least on a part-time basis, or at least when they have problems, they can turn to to the seller. So it's up in the air. But the key thing here, if you're selling your business, remember, you're probably going to have to carry part of the financing. And when you do that, you need to take some usual steps that any bank or financial institution or lender would take to check out the buyer and then somehow secure your interest in the business and be aware of where the business is operationally, profitability, etc., until your note is paid off. A short little article I picked up, and I just wanted to touch on this, and it's a good common sense, but sometimes we forget about it. And I kind of went back in the archives and was kicking around looking for something a little different. And I came across an article that Mary Curtin wrote for the Journal back on December 4th. And it says, Small Businesses' Secret Weapon, Customer Relationships. Well, we talk a lot about customer relationships on the show. We talk a lot about it at chamber events. We talk a lot about it at any kind of business roundtable. Obviously, customer relationships is an important part of business. But this particular article was written with the idea that you have a major, large competitor come into your marketplace. You know, one of the big box stores, if you will, one of the big competitors comes to town. And all of a sudden, you're a real small player with your store or business on Main Street, so to speak. And the point that Mary, I think, was really trying to drive home is if you have built good customer relations and you've established value with your clients, then even if they can go down the street to the big player or go online to the big player and save a buck or two, a majority, in fact, usually your most profitable customers are going to continue to do business with you because people buy for the right reason in most cases. They buy for a relationship. They know if they have an issue or problem, you're going to take care of it. You're going to communicate with them. You're going to service them. You're going to be part of their relationship in their business, or if it's consumer-oriented in their family, and you're going to be there. So it's very important to constantly, obviously, nurture that relationship with your customers, not only to sell them more product or services, but also that when you have a competitor that comes in the market and particularly offers a cheaper price or something, this kind of offers you a way to protect yourself for that downside risk. The last thing I'd like to touch on, and it's kind of the season for it, we finished a year. We finished the first month, January, in the year. At this point, year-end statements in most cases have been done. You've seen what your real profitability has been from a book point of view, and now you're preparing your taxes and whatnot. And in many cases, you're working with an accountant, a CPA, to prepare those taxes. You've already prepared a budget, hopefully. You know what your projections are. But one of the things that many businesses miss, if you are particularly considering selling your business in the near future, and by the near future I mean the next 3 to 5 years, because I think it takes a minimum of 3 full accounting years to prepare your business to sell it if you want to get top dollar. I think that what you have to do is take a good hard look at your financial statement and how they're being prepared. In other words, do you have a CPA prepared statement at the end of the year? If you're involved with a bank or a financial institution, the chances that you do have some kind of certified or reviewed or official statement prepared by a third party, typically a CPA. But a lot of smaller businesses don't. They rely on their QuickBooks or their accounting software statement. They don't have to prepare anything checked out by a third party. But let me tell you, when you go to sell that business to someone else, they're going to want to look at financials usually that have been verified by a third party, typically a CPA. The larger the business, the more important this becomes. So what the point I'm trying to make is, if you're considering particularly to sell your business, or if you're considering doing some major financing to build a new building, to increase your inventory, to grow your business, and you have to go out and borrow money, again, you're going to find a financial institution's going to want some kind of third-party prepared statement, again, typically a CPA prepared statement, and you need to get on your way doing that if you're not, if you think you're going to come up with one of these events, again, selling the business or doing a financing particularly, those two things. Don't let it blindside you. And you need typically a 3-year history with this type of preparation, this type of statement. So don't forget about that. I've seen a number of people in my career that go to sell their business particularly, and they have financials. A lot of times the financials are a little bit, say, helter-skelter. There may be, as nobody's intentionally done things, but they're just not professionally prepared. And they go out and look for buyers. And again, there's certain buyers that might accept it, but I assure you, the best buyers, the ones that will pay the highest price and come with the most money, are going to be the ones that can look at financials that they can trust, that the numbers are accurate so they know what the business is doing, so they can determine what they can do with the business. So don't forget, when you're getting ready to finance or sell your business, look for professionally prepared statements. And again, I would encourage you to do this at least 3 years before you reach that point. Well, that brings us to the end of today's tips and news that we can use. We're going to take a commercial break. Hope you'll stay with us. And when we come back, we're going to have our special guest to talk about their business. They are in the paper business, so we're going to talk with them, and we'll be right back with you.
The East Texas Dream Center is in need of your help. We are a nonprofit Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. We are conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas, 77301, right here in Montgomery County. Our needs are financial, and every needs of gasoline, cleaning supplies, laundry soap, Lysol, and whatever else God puts in your heart. To help our ladies and children, please consider a donation. You may visit our website at www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, so you don't forget, it's www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Donations are tax deductible. Remember what Jesus said, with God, nothing is impossible.
Hello, I'm Mark Hader.
And this is Cindy Cochran inviting you to join us on the Cindy and Mark Show each weekday morning from 10 to 11 here on Lone Star Internet Radio.
Super, Cindy, but I believe it's the Mark and Cindy Show.
Huh? Yes, it is, Mark. And it's broadcast live on Lone Star Internet Radio here in beautiful downtown Conroe. Oh, the exciting things we'll talk about, the interesting guests you'll get to meet, the wonderful gifts we'll give away, and the tons of...
Wait. Gifts? There are no gifts. I'm not giving away anything. Why do you get to decide on what we do? It's Mark and Cindy, remember?
Oh, yeah? Well, so ladies and gentlemen, tune in and we'll all find out who gets to decide stuff. Weekday mornings at 10 here on Lone Star Internet Radio. How was that?
It could have been worse. You could have sung your part.
Oh, yeah, wait. It's the Mark and Cindy Show. The Mark and Cindy Show. The Mark and Cindy Show.
Is
The
it
Mark
going
and
to be
Cindy
this
Show.
way?
And this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, welcoming you back to the weekly business hour. And now to the best part of the show, absolutely. We have a special guest here with us today. We have Ross Silva. Ross and his wife Diana own the Minuteman Press, located on North Loop 336. Ross, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Okay.
Well, let's start out. Let's just get right down to it. You're in the printing business, which is to me interesting, particularly since a lot of folks projected that computers would really wipe out the need for print. Tell us why it's important, if you would, or share with us your perspective of why it's important for any business out there to really have a good printer to do their work for them.
Every business needs a printer, and they are using one now, whether it be just for business cards, for forms, for direct mail. Every business needs a printer.
And that's, I find that interesting because I visited with you and Diana on a number of occasions, and it's amazing to me the width and breadth of your business, the number of different things that you do print. But also what I'm impressed with your business is the creativity that you offer your customer. Because I've come into your business and had trouble with the logo, and you have people there that work with you and you design the logo. You offer a lot of creative work as well.
Absolutely. We have a full-time graphic designer. She's been doing this for over 16 years. She has done so many different forms and logos and designs, and we have many compliments from our customers about the work she does.
So it's not just like I bring in some documents and say, hey, make me a photocopy. Do you do much of that anymore?
Very little, like 2% of my business, if that much.
Yeah, I was in your store one day when a couple people came in and asked for photocopies, and it sort of caught me by surprise. The business kind of started back when, where you would go to a printer or copy shop to get copies made.
Correct. Now, we don't consider ourselves a copy shop. We are a print shop. So that's 98% of my business.
Right. One of the things I've learned about working with you is really it's a complete service. Like you mentioned, we talked about you have a graphic designer, but you basically take me from soup to nuts on any kind of printing job I want to do.
Absolutely. And there's so many different aspects of printing with any customer or company. Some people may just want a promotional item like pens or T-shirts or whatever, but the majority of my customers are looking for trifolds, brochures, things for trade shows. We provide all of that service.
Now, your average customer, I mean, you handle small customers, and I know you handle some very large businesses as well.
Absolutely. And we handle such a big aspect of customers, from a one-man roofing company to large corporations. Well, not large, but medium-sized corporations. And there's so many things people ask for. It's such a challenge trying to meet the needs.
Well, it's almost like when in the printing business, to me, you kind of got to be part psychologist, part creative, almost like a Disney or some creator. You listen to what I say, and then you sit down and talk to me about, okay, it could look like this or look like that. I mean, that's the sense I've gotten.
Absolutely. You're very correct. And it's not always easy to understand what someone sees in their mind. Trying to get it on paper, it is a process, and it doesn't happen the first time we do a proof. And, well, it's part of the fun of being a printer.
Well, yeah, it's a lot different than I think the average person would think about. I'd bring in something I wanted, and you'd print it or make, trifold out of maybe a single sheet or, but it's a lot of creativity.
Absolutely. And the best jobs are when someone creates a file or a booklet on the computer, they send it to me, we print it, and they walk in and see it on paper. And when you get that wow comment from a customer, you know you did a great job.
That's one thing you mentioned in that, and I can see that. Again, it's almost like you need to visit your store, and it really is a source of creativity, and you feel a little bit of energy in there. It's interesting to me. But is the fact that the computer obviously has changed your business. I don't. From what I read, we use more paper today than we used before the computer. But I can electronically send you information. That's probably revolutionized your business. Has that been helpful?
Absolutely, because when you make copies of copies of copies, the image goes down, and the electronic file stays crisp, stays perfect, stays great. We had a job this morning that we did a proof for, and they sent me an electronic file, the logo. It's very low res, and we printed it, and we have to have it to show the customer. They're not going to like it, and we know it, but that's what proofs are for.
Well, that's interesting. So the original that they sent you electronic was a low resolution, and you identified that it was probably too low to be acceptable in print. But when you print it out, then you say, okay, customer, take a look. Is this really what you want?
Right. So they have choices, either find it from the corporate office where the high resolution is, or we can recreate it, their option.
Okay. So again, you now you're in the advising business because you're advising them what would give them a better look.
Absolutely. And that's part of our graphic designer. Her name is Janet. She is so experienced in what she does and how well she does it. And she's the key to our success.
Yeah, that's interesting, and you've taken that approach. Now, you're a Minuteman Press. That's a franchise, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How did you and Diana determine to become part of the Minuteman Press organization?
I went to a franchise expo at Reliance Stadium about 3 years ago, and I interviewed and talked to many different companies, and Minuteman seemed to be the best fit for me. And part of the process is they took Diana and I to different Minuteman stores across the city, introduced us to the owners, and then walked away and let us talk to them, ask any question we wanted, and we enjoyed that, and we got truthful answers.
So that convinced you to go with Minuteman.
Correct.
Now, did they have a training program or anything that you had to go through to become one of their people?
Yes, sir. Minuteman required that any new owner go to their school in Farmingdale, New York. And we spent 2 days, long days, intense days, and they showed us everything from how to hire people, from firing people, to graphics, how to run an offset press, how to run a digital press. More information that it's hard to comprehend and retain it. But the whole idea is I had to know a little bit about every aspect of our business.
And you said 2 days. Was that 2 weeks, maybe?
Yes, sir. 2 weeks.
Well, I remember reading your bio and how you talked to me about how intense that training really was, and that impressed you all that this was a good company to be with.
And the people that had the best questions during this training period are people that had experience in printing. And over 90% of Minuteman owners have no print experience. But the ones that did, they had excellent questions.
Well, that's interesting. Over 90% of their franchises don't have any experience when they start. And yet they're, I would assume, a large percent of them are successful working with Minuteman.
Over 93%, I believe.
Wow, that's great numbers. Now, just for a moment, tell us a little bit about what you and Diana did prior to becoming a Minuteman Press. What were you all earlier in your careers? What were you involved in?
Okay. I worked with a large paint company for 26 years, and I was assistant manager and manager, and so I had a lot of experience with operations of a store, and from hiring people, letting people go, to outside marketing. And Diana had a lot of experience in the office with everything from invoicing, collections, payroll. She did everything inside. So we were a good fit.
So you're a good team.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, how is that? A lot of people ask. We were kidding a little bit before the show. And Diana, by the way, was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately couldn't be here. But so I guess I'll defend her if she say anything. But how is it working with a spouse on a day-to-day basis? Because you guys work together every day.
Most of the time, it's very rewarding. The few times we have little arguments on how to do something most efficiently. Her way of doing it, my way of doing it, and we discuss it, and sometimes it gets heated. But overall, it's been a great experience. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Well, let me ask you this now. Is there a dividing line when you go home in the evening? Do you discuss the business, or do you all have any special rules to kind of give you some private time together?
No, we discuss our business any time of day, any time of the week, weekends, whatever. Ideas come up. How can we do this better? How can we make more money this way? How can we market better? Ideas come up and we discuss it. And
Well, that's interesting. So it sounds like you've got a great partnership in more than one way.
absolutely, she's an awesome lady. I'm very lucky to have her.
Well, I think you're an awesome team. Like I said, I've done business with you, and you do a great job in what you're doing from my perspective. Let me ask you this, kind of go back on the franchise situation. The franchise situation, we've discussed the idea of franchising on here. We've actually had one of the leading experts in this country of finding the right franchise for people and getting the right fit, because sometimes people can't do that on their own. And Jerry Polio, one of our good friends of the station, that's what he does, is help people find the right franchise. You did franchising versus starting something from scratch. Tell us, why did you choose to go the franchise route?
Because of the support you get. Minuteman wants their owners to succeed. And per franchise agreement, they are required to give me 40 hours of in-house help. In reality, I had close to 200. And plus, I can call other Minuteman owners. How you do this? How you get paper for water bottles? I mean, everybody has experience I can call on and use. It's a very good support system.
And that's typically what I hear, that most people that choose franchising are looking for that long-term support and that initial training to get kicked off. And it sounds like it's worked for you very well.
Yes. And one thing that's different about Minuteman is they have a cap on my royalties. Most franchises don't.
Okay. Now that means, tell the audience what that means.
Well, I pay percentage of whatever I sell to Minuteman. And with Minuteman, there is a cap. So when you hit that cap, I get more of the profit. Goes in my pocket.
So they take a maximum amount, and then the rest is gravy, as I call it, for you and your wife and as owners of the business.
Correct.
Well, that's interesting. That's a concept I've never heard in franchising. That's very interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short commercial break here. Hope you'll stay with us, and we'll be back with Ross Silva, he and his wife Diana, the owner of the local Minuteman Press on the North Loop, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the general business challenges they face. So stick with us, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Joyce with the Corner Pub in downtown Conroe. We're located at the corner of Simonton and North Main, just across the street from the courthouse. The week starts off Monday with open mic hosted by Alan, and Tuesday nights open mic hosted by Jeremy Bankhead. And on Thursday evening, McFarland Jams. There's nightly drink specials available every night, all night. And don't forget, live entertainment every weekend. To see a full list of events, visit our website at thecornerpubinconroe.com. So come join us at the Corner Pub, where the deli is open late.
Tri-County Services provides services to children and adults with mental illnesses, substance abuse disorders, and intellectual developmental disabilities in Montgomery, Liberty, and Walker counties. Offices are located in Conroe, Cleveland, Liberty, and Huntsville. Some mental health services offer focus on resilience and recovery. Services and supports for individuals with intellectual development disabilities focus on skill development and independence. Tri-County Services offers 24/7 crisis intervention and evaluation with crisis hotline 1-800-659-6994. And their mobile crisis outreach team. Psychiatric crisis treatment is available at Psychiatric Emergency Treatment Center in Conroe. Substance abuse services include treatment for both youth and adults. Substance abuse prevention classes are also provided for younger children and teenagers. Peer support services for veterans are also offered by Tri-County Services. For more information about all programs provided by Tri-County Services, call 936-521-6100 or visit our website at www.tricountyservices.org.
Welcome back. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, the weekly business hour, and we're here in the studio today talking to Ross Silva. He and his wife Diana are the owners of the Minuteman Press on the North Loop. When we left Ross, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the general business. Now we're going to put you on the spot a little bit, and we're going to talk about how you and also Diana, even though she's not here today, how you handle some of the challenges that come with just operating a business. And let's start out. What is the biggest challenge on a day-to-day basis in operating Minuteman Press?
That's a good question. There's different challenges on a day-to-day basis. Say today, my biggest challenge is getting these 4,000 invoices folded up and getting back as quick as possible. And today's challenge is time. I had time to do it. I'm here and I should be back at the store doing my bindery stuff.
So you've got a big order to get out, and it's just a function of the time.
Right. Other days it has to do with graphics. If someone wants a logo, that's no problem. If 5 people want logo, now you have a time issue, and you can only do one logo at a time.
Now, does your business go through ebbs and flows, seasonality, anything like that?
Yes, it does. The last week of the year is very, very slow. We are like most print shops. We kind of close down for that last week, and during the summer, business slows down a little bit during July. Last year, our June and August were very good. July was a little bit slow.
So you do have some seasonality to the business.
Absolutely.
But on a week-to-week basis or day-to-day business, do you have this rush that comes in and then all of a sudden next day it's slow? I mean, is it kind of a surprise every day when you go in?
I would agree with that, and it varies. There's no pattern. I've had so many Fridays where we were just swamped, and I've had Fridays where no one would come in, but that gives us time to catch up on the business during the week.
Right. Do you use Saturdays as a catch-up day?
This past weekend we used Saturday and Sunday.
Did you really? Wow.
So the part of that job I was talking about, Diane and I were sitting in front of the TV doing our fold-in and watching, and it takes time to do some work, some jobs.
Right.
Lots of time.
Well, that's one of the things, I guess, in your business. There's still a lot of manual labor involved.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And when you do spiral books or any number of projects, there's always manual labor.
And that's something that you primarily do yourself. I mean, you don't have anybody doing that work, do you?
All 3 of us do it.
Okay.
So it's something that we all chip in, we all do it. Janet does the less because her primary job is graphic design.
Right.
So, but she can do everything.
But all hands on deck sometimes to get that manual part of the job out.
It's happened many times, all 3 of us. We actually had a couple of jobs. We had to hire some kids to help come in for a few days and help us put stuff together. And it can be a very fun job.
Let me ask you this. Anything, and we'll kind of go back in history a little bit, but anything in your educational or upbringing that prepared you to be an independent or entrepreneurial business person?
I would say just working with that paint company and see how things were done and mistakes that were made and people that were good people that were lost. And this sometimes you can have too many rules. And if you overstep your boundaries and you lose a good person that should have been there for life, you learn how to treat people better. And that's one thing I think I learned was you keep your good people.
And I assume when you say lose good people with the paint company, you're talking about employees.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so you've gotten quite a bit of experience then in how to hire and work somebody and keep good people.
Correct. And you always treat people with respect. Even when they goof up, you treat them with respect.
So no kick in the rear end type thing, huh?
There are those few individuals that need it, but not in my store.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. That's part of the culture that I guess we build up in every business.
Yes.
And the culture in your business, what if you could tell somebody that was interviewing for a job, what is it?
Customer service. That's what we believe in. That's what we strive for. That's why Diane and I have worked so many late nights. Customer service.
And customer service in your business, a lot of it is, I assume, quality, but also meeting a deadline.
Absolutely. And
deadlines are critical, aren't they, in your business?
It's become increasingly more important as things move towards the digital type of printing versus offset. Digital means speed, and that's very, very important nowadays.
One of the things I think that I was curious on, and at one point you took some time You and Diana took some time and educated me, but I think that it would be interesting for the average listener because I assume most business people have to use a printer at some point or use a printer in their business for whatever reason, whether it be internal documents, invoices, or for advertising purposes. What goes into pricing a printing job? I mean, just generally, I'm not trying to steal any secrets, but what generally goes into pricing a printing job?
The type of equipment and the amount of time it takes to do it. Some jobs are based digital. Some jobs need UV coding. Some jobs, like the one we're doing this past weekend, takes hours and hours of labor. So you have to price it accordingly.
And do you have any assistance software, or do you just do it on the back of a pad, so to speak, or how do you go about pricing a job?
Okay. I do have a Minuteman software that helps us do that. All that information in there is adjustable. And when I first started, Minuteman sent people out getting a price for the local market. And then they put those prices in my machine. And anytime I can change them.
So, well, that's interesting to me. So your pricing is not necessarily the same as it would be in New York or California. It's localized.
Correct.
Well, that's interesting. Makes a lot of sense, but it's not like it's just they input one pricing level and it works everywhere.
That's absolutely. And I love the control. Minuteman gives its owners lots of control on hours to open, prices they do, who they buy from, what we sell. That's all individual owner decision.
Now, where do you find your suppliers? That's interesting.
There's nationwide suppliers for paper, for anything. And, well, experience. Talking to Minuteman people, talking to other owners. I have changed my paper supplier twice since I started, talking to other owners who gives the best service, the best prices, etc.
That's interesting. So when you're on the buyer side of the equation, you're doing the same thing that most buyers are doing. You're out looking for the best opportunity to develop a relationship with a company, and twice in 3 years is quite a it's changing quite a bit.
Correct, and there's so many factors, but not all suppliers are how should I put it? Give me the service that I need, the speed that I need, and it's not always the cheapest. I need to get the product when I need it for my customers, and that's the most important thing.
Most of your jobs have a quick turnaround, don't they?
Yes, sir. Most of them. There are some exceptions. No printer has all the equipment to do everything. For example, pens. I don't believe there's a pen printer inside Conroe, so we all send those out to get done. And when that happens, you're at their timetable, not ours.
So you're kind of at their mercy, so to speak, as we say.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this question. Overall, and you all have been at it long enough now, what do you attribute your overall success to this point?
The networking. And when I say networking, the Chamber of Commerce has been a big factor. Other networking groups like the MC Pros and the BNI groups, they have helped quite a bit. And although we are also part of Lions Club, that's not a networking group, but anytime you're with the people and you develop relationships, business is going to come from that.
So you, over a period of, say, 3 years or so, have built up a lot of good relationships.
Absolutely. When Diana and I walked in, we did not know anyone but the old owners, and that was it. And now it's great to go any place, walk anywhere, and we meet people we know. And it's a good feeling to be in Conroe.
Well, that's kind of, you walked in this morning next door at the coffee shop at Conroe Coffee, and the owner knew you had been in. So you're right about that.
Yes. We feel very, very comfortable in Conroe, and I'm glad we opened up here.
Well, I think Conroe, personally, from my observation in the Conroe area, Montgomery County even, is a great place to do business.
Yes. And Diana's daughter has recently moved to Conroe about 4 months ago. And I didn't know this until she was here. She has young kids. And the school system in Conroe is excellent. I'm very impressed with it.
That's interesting. So a good place to live, too.
Yes.
What do you see in the future in the printing business? I mean, we had this thing with computers, and a lot of people, as I mentioned a couple of times before, projected that the printing business would kind of shrink away, and because the lack of use of paper. Going forward over the next 3, 4, 5 years, where do you see the printing business going? See your business going?
More jobs that cannot be done in a company. A lot of companies have copiers, but they can't do the book binding and UV coding, all sorts of, I don't know how to put it, but there's so many things you cannot do in-house with a copier. And a copier is very limited. And that's where I come in, that's where other printers come in. We can do so much more for customers. And the graphic designs is a big part of that. And that's why people come to us.
So as you mentioned earlier, the value of being able to help people through a project, which typically, even if they're a larger company, they're not going to have staff, graphic designer or whatnot, they're not going to have staff that can put these kind of projects together unless they're, Fortune 500 or, So you see yourself 5 years from now, say, doing basically what you're doing today.
Yeah, maybe a little more direct mail, because direct mail is a very proven winner. And we're doing more and more of that, and more companies are coming to us, and we have the knowledge to help them.
Now, do you do the complete direct mail package? Do you actually put it in the post office?
Yes, sir.
So you do it beginning to end for somebody if they want to do it that way?
From design to what routes or who to go out to, whether we go EDDM or versus a mailing list. We can do it all.
So, and you've seen an increase in direct mail?
Yes.
That's interesting because, email kind of came in and I think took the wind out of some direct mail, for at least for a while, but email messaging or advertising is kind of dropping off from what I see. So maybe people are going back to direct mail.
On email, it's very easy to put it as junk mail or spam. With direct mail, you have to touch it before you can throw it away. You have to look at it.
So that means it's got to look really good, right? So I'm curious and open it up.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and that plays right into your hand. That's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break for the day. We've been visiting with Ross Silva of Minuteman Press and listening to some of his wisdom in running a business and the opportunity of the printing business. If you'll stay with us, we'd appreciate it. And we'll be right back to talk to Ross about some work-life balance issues that he and Diana practice. See you in just a few moments.
Hello, I'm Bonita DeRosa, Animal Control Officer for the City of Willis. We invite you to tune in to Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. for the Willis Hour. On the first Thursday of the month, the Willis Hour will be covering upcoming events and news about the city. Join in the conversation with your city officials and other leaders in the community. On the third, we will be doing a recap of the last City Council meeting. The mission of the City of Willis is to provide high-quality services, accountability, and professional commitment to our citizens. We pledge to provide those who live, work, and visit our city an effective government that is open and responsive to the needs and values of the community. Again, we invite you to tune in on Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 for the Willis Hour.
The Conroe Art League is a nonprofit entity promoting the visual arts in Montgomery County. They've evolved over the last 49 years into one of the premier artist groups in the greater Houston area. The Conroe Art League is now permanently housed in the 100-year-old recently remodeled Madeley building in historic downtown Conroe. Exhibits of local artists, sculptors, and painters are changed periodically in the downstairs gallery with admission free to the public. Art classes and demonstrations in a variety of media are provided in the upstairs studios. The mission of the Conroe Art League is to encourage artistic development and cultivate an appreciation of the visual arts through education, exhibitions, and community outreach. For more information, call area code 936-756-9572 or visit their website at www.conroeartleague.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, Silver Fox Advisor, your host, and we've been visiting today with Ross Silva. He and his wife Diana are the owners of the Minuteman Press on the North Loop 336. We're into our final segment now, and Ross, let's talk a little bit about, in a general way, what's called work-life balance. One of the things I know personally about you and Diana is that you're very involved in the community ever since, and you mentioned it right before we took the last break, that you're out networking, you're involved in the Lions Club. Tell us a little bit more about your involvement with the Lions Club.
The Lions Club is a service organization, and it is an awesome organization. It is worldwide, but for me, it's what happens in Conroe. And there's so many different projects you can choose from to help. Diana and I, what we enjoyed the most was the Christmas food baskets that we handed out and set up, and the Kerrville Camp for Handicapped Children or Special Needs Children. The last 2 years, Dan and I had gone up there with the Lions Club from Conroe and spent a weekend from painting to fixing fences to anything they need. And we go up there, and the last 2 years were like 35 to 40 people from Conroe, but there's like 300 to 400 people from Lions Club statewide there at the same time. And last year we went back there for one of the graduations at the camp, and it's a very moving experience to see these kids that they loved the camp. They just enjoyed it, and the camp, each one has a one-to-one counselor supporting them, helping them, letting them do things from riding horses to a rock wall climb to anything they want to do, to learn how to swim, and it's a great place. And Diana and I, that's what we want to help. We want to help that camp so much.
Well, it sounds like it's become part of your heart for life. Very interesting that and I think that's important. That's part of work-life balance, is to find a passion for a cause or some kind of work we can do away from our work. And it sounds like you guys have found the right fit for yourselves.
We have, and when I talk about the Lions Club, helping the special needs kids is just one part of what they do. They have the eyeglass program. They have the Challenge Air. They have Kids on the Lake. They have 20, 25 different projects you can help with. A few weeks ago, there was a group of people to help build a ramp for a local family, and that was a very good experience. It's just a great organization.
So it sounds like they're a very involved and active service organization here in the Conroe area.
Absolutely, and they have some very good people there, and people like me, other printers, other small businesses, but you got police chief, fire chief, you got all these important people that believe in helping others. There's people, I don't know their names, we just call them judge, and it's great, and just work side by side with the important people of this county.
Well, now one of the things folks listening to us here in Montgomery County may not realize, and you correct me if I get it wrong, but I understand that the local Noon Lions Club here in Conroe is one of the largest chapters in the country.
Absolutely. It's a 300-plus membership. On a weekly basis, there's 150, 175 people at the luncheon. But at any given project, generally you're going to have between 10 and 40 people there. And there's a great group of people that believe in giving.
I'm sorry. You mentioned the luncheon, and that's one of the things I want to just touch on briefly is that, and you touched on it yourself, is that, an organization like this is not networking in a strictly business sense, but you build relationships with people and you get deeper into the community. I mean, like you say, you've met some wonderful people, and you might not know exactly what their name is, but it's Judge or the police chief, but you're in the community. I mean, you're right in the heart of this community, not just the business community, but the heart of this community, which helps build your business.
Yes, it does. And it's a lot of the same people we see on a weekly basis at Lions Club. We see them at the Chamber of Commerce events. We see them at Friends of Conroe at the festivals. Everybody that's part of Lions Club also does other things in Conroe. And that's what makes us feel so welcome here, is being part of this group. And yeah, everybody's so friendly.
Well, let's talk about the chamber for a minute. You mentioned that when you bought this business, one of the things you did was turn to the Conroe Chamber to connect with other businesses, and you do some work for them as well. You're not just a member.
Yeah, that's correct. We're also volunteers with the chamber, diplomats, and we go to a lot of ribbon cuttings, the breakfast networking, the after hours, and the chamber is a very good way to network, and you don't want to just join and pay your money. You want to participate, and as you do that, you develop relationships, and it starts to become almost like a family, because you start seeing a lot of the same people, and you feel so comfortable going to these events. I strongly recommend people to join the chamber.
Well, I personally believe, and I've told more than one or two people this, sometimes people get tired of me tooting the horn, but the chamber here is, and I've been a member in my career of several different chambers in the greater Houston area, and I found this chamber to be one of the, if not the very best chamber, because they're friendly, they want to help you, it's one-on-one, it's not just show up in mass, and it's really true to what a chamber, I believe, should be about. And it sounds like it's really worked for you and your wife in getting your business off the ground.
Oh yes, quite a bit, and I'm going to always strongly recommend you join the chamber, not just for the business networking, but the friendships you develop.
Right. I think that's an excellent point for anybody. I've been saving one of the things I heard about you when I visited with you and Diana about being on the show, that it's kind of my little secret story, that it's not a secret, but you guys actually built a house together, and I think that's an interesting challenge, not only building the house, but a couple. Could you share that with us a little bit? Because that could be in a leadership training course. You know what I mean? Can we build this house together? Tell us about that.
Well, we bought a shell house, half acre, and we had friends that showed us how to do things, how to do electric, sheetrocking. Her son knows how to make sure the studs are correct and not warped, etc. And we did this not knowing how to do it, and we did this big project. How shall I put this? There have been so many parts of this project we had to start over because it wasn't correct, it wasn't right, and it's been great. And now there's nothing I feel I cannot do in a house, from the plumbing to the building, anything. And it's been a wonderful experience. Me and Diana's a big part of it, because she is so creative on what a house needs, where she wants shelves, shoe racks in a closet, anything she wants, I do. And sometimes I have to think about how to do it, but it gets done.
Well, it was interesting talking to both of you at the time prior to the show about this, because you did this together. I mean, she told me she didn't want to tape sheetrock anymore, but I mean, this was obviously a program, I guess, where you buy a shell house and then you finish it. And I've seen some of those around. You do the interior finish and so on and so forth yourself as a project and a way to save hopefully a few dollars. But if you do too many do-overs, I don't know if you save a lot. But you guys really still have a smile on your face. You seem closer about it. I mean, it seemed to really build your relationship as well.
It did. It really did. And one thing about Diana, she made this house into a home. And I love the way she decorates and that friendly feeling, the pictures on the walls. And she's awesome in that aspect.
Well, and that's one thing I think all our listeners and everybody that's involved with the show can take away is you work as a husband and wife, or you see these family businesses, and I come from a family business and whatnot, and it's building the strength is not necessarily just in the business, but there are other ways to do it. In this case, building a home together, which is a huge undertaking. I mean, I respect that because I've been in the construction business, and doing that and just biting that off and going and just doing it, stepping off into it. But it strengthens your business as well, because you strengthen the relationship with your partner. She is your spouse, but she's also your partner every day in that business. And I applaud you for doing that. I mean, that's as good or better than any leadership training course I've ever seen out there to go build a business like that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the close of our show. And Ross, I want to thank you for being part of this show today. It's been extremely interesting to myself, and I'm sure our listeners. And if people want to contact you about printing needs and how to go about a project, how can they best do that?
Well, our store number is 936 760-2679, or they can email us at conroe@minutemanpress.com.
Okay, now give us that information one more time in case somebody didn't catch it.
Okay, our phone number is 936-760-2679. Our email is at conroe@minutemanpress.com. We're located on 1201 North Loop 336 West.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for coming in and being willing to share your business experience and with our audience. One thing I want to mention to you, audience, a special project that we have going on here at the studio at Lone Star Internet Radio, one of our wonderful nonprofit partners, Tamagua. Tamagua is a free clinic located over in the Magnolia, Tomball area, and they're collecting Bibles. So if you have a Bible that you're not using, that you'd be willing to pass on, so that we can get the word out to others that don't have Bibles, feel free to drop it by our studio here, 208 North Main. We're collecting for Tamagua. You'll hear their message in one of our PSAs. That aside, though, I want to thank you again for joining us for this week's Weekly Business Hour and encourage you to join us next week. We have a very special program. We're going to have the folks from Trident Restoration, Waylon Franklin and some of the senior management. This is a company I think that's kind of been under the radar, and they're going to talk to us about the restoration business and some of the other things they do. So I would encourage you to check out the Lone Star website at www.irlonestar.com for more information. And please, always remember that Lone Star Internet is Conroe and Montgomery County's community radio station where the community comes to connect. So now I'll tell you, please sit back. We'll have a few messages, and then we'll be back to that good old country western music brought to you by Lone Star. See you next week, partner. Thank you for listening to the Weekly Business Hour. Our special business guest next week will be Triton Renovation, led by Waylon Franklin and some of the senior management team. Check out the Lone Star website at www.irlonestar.com for more information. Always remember that Lone Star Internet Radio is Conroe and Montgomery County's community radio station where the community comes to connect.
Hey everyone, this is Tina, your host from Retro Saturdays. I wanted to invite you to visit the Lone Star Studios here in downtown Conroe, Texas. We're all volunteers here, and we need your help in serving the Montgomery County area. Radio media is a fun field to be in. Lone Star Internet Radio serves Montgomery County with news, current events, local programming, and of course, music. If you are interested in volunteering and sharing your talents in media, go to irlonestar.com and let us hear from you. Lone Star Internet Radio, serving Montgomery County from the heart of downtown Conroe.